I did not expect to wake up and make this kind of video, but we are going to do another one of these. If you guys are new to the channel, basically what we do here is we just look at like hot topics in the community and just kind of read through the responses and kind of react to it. But this one is pretty ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen this level of community, honestly, insanity since really since the day I started playing the game. 20 years of community, and I never really felt like it's gotten to this level of I don't even know how to describe this. Like, it's actually kind of scary. When I saw this at first, I could only help but laugh because, first of all, this is a total waste of time. And second of all, it really speaks to the insane levels of entitlement this community has gotten. And to the point now where they believe that they are an active piece in the development cogwheel, which Blizzard has allowed them to be. And that's really, really bad. This was a slippery slope the whole time. And I did not realize it was going to get to this level where all of a sudden the community thinks that they can just have the game exactly the way they want it, and then when the community doesn't get what they want, they start acting like this. Like, this is really just like, it's one thing for there to be one player. I mean, it looks like it looks like you can scroll down too, and I don't even know that this is a real image. If anybody can corroborate that this is real and that they saw this happen, or knows anything about the background behind this, because I don't believe that this is just random. Maybe like one guy did it first and then it kind of went viral, but this is kind of crazy that you would even do this. Like, especially here. What are you spamming this dungeon finder for? Like, who is gonna look at this? What do you think Blizzard cares about this, bro? Like, they don't even acknowledge pugging. Like, you're just making everybody else's life more miserable. That's really all that this is doing. Like, imagine you're looking for a key and you see all this freaking nonsense. Like, could you imagine? Like, I would just report these people. Like, this is absolute a waste of everybody's time, okay? And wait till you see the reasons that people are saying that it's being done. I don't fully understand why it's being done either, but we're gonna read through this Reddit thread and yeah, you see the top comment here. It really says everything you need to know here. Oops, the guy says, I'm so out of the loop, right? So is everybody, because most people are well adjusted, normal human beings who are not wasting their time protesting something that the company isn't even going to see. It's like going to like a McDonald's in California and protesting Blizzard. Like, what are you talking about, bro? You got to go to the headquarters. Like, they have to actually see it if you want to protest it, dude. They're not going to, they're going to see the image on Reddit, like I did when I woke up. Like, what are they going to do about this? It's just kind of embarrassing, man. But so the people are communicating on why, this guy says every comment has a different reason for the protest, so I'm still none the wiser, which is really actually a great summary of the community. And this guy actually says it too. The sign above the door, abandon wisdom, all ye who comment here, meaning, kind of that old epitaph of hell, abandon hope, all ye who enter here. But, this isn't hell. This is the real world that we live in nowadays. Anyway, here's the first guy who's trying to cast like a die on why this happened. He said the patch notes were released, which was like a week and a half ago now. The meta classes that have all representation at higher keys are getting significant buffs. Mages, Frost Death Knights, and Resto Shamans, while some that have already the lowest representation, Warlock, Fury Warrior, Holy Pally, are seeing a nerf. People are upset now because they feel like they have to play a couple classes if they want to do any high content. And we could just talk, we can make a whole hour video just on this one comment. But first of all, I do want to say some things. I don't really know anything about what I'm looking at when I look at patch notes for specs, okay? I only play Blood Death Knight at this point, so, you guys can argue about whether or not the significant buff word is true. I honestly doubt it, to be honest, but yeah, who knows? Who knows if it's true or not? All I can say is that Resto Shaman is getting a substantial nerf in the main reason that they're brought, and that is the poison cleansing totem, okay? Their utility kit is what makes them powerful right now, so I don't really understand if they're actually buffing Resto Shaman's HPS output, but frankly, their HPS is not remarkable at all right now. So yeah, I think a lot of people look at these things as like they look purely from the community element and they do not look at the actual raw statistics of these things. Now, Frost Death Knight is certainly a numerical outlier. That one is consistently the case, although we have seen many Frost Death Knights underperform too. I've been keeping the stats, and if you guys haven't seen it on my spreadsheet now, we actually have the runs based on the actual spec as well, okay? And so anytime we finish a key, so any non-disband, so completion or upgrade and higher, I have them listed in the order at which they compete. meaning, you know, this key here, this 8, whatever, this 8 Siege of Braus, the top damage was a Rep Paladin. And then this key here, this is obviously very early in the season, but well, whatever. Whenever you see a Frost Death Knight not first, you know, that tells you that there is more to balance than just numbers. And, you know, you see a lot of Frost Death Knights not first, especially early on in the season now. To be fair, it's changed a lot as we got into higher keys. But yeah, it's definitely not every single time. And I do think that they are statistical outliers in both perception and reality. But I would not say mages. The next comment was mage, or really the first comment was mage. Mage is interesting because it has all 3 specs being very good right now, and I don't think that's ever happened in, you know, people always talk about a 1 mage spec being dominant. I don't think it's ever been this bad where all 3 are very, very good. But at no point have I ever looked at a mage and be like, oh, that guy's dominating. Like, he's way too high damage wise. So I don't know if what you guys are seeing, maybe in the absolute peak of keys, yet again, mage dominates in a very you know, coordinated group. But in the world of pugging where I'm doing 12s, mage is average. Like, they're good. And honestly, I don't know why they're so popular, because they don't seem like, you know, if anything, I would want to play a Frost Death Knight. Like, if you're trying to just be flavor of the month, I guess maybe because they're the best range, people gravitate towards them. But yeah, they're certainly not like outliers in terms of damage. So I don't know what buffs or nerfs these specs are getting, but you know, representation at higher keys is a very loaded statement, and I think people get a little bit hung up on representation. I can show you the actual stats on representation right now, too, by the way. That's why I brought this up. So here is this is a representation for all key levels, okay? We have now, let's see exactly how many 12s we've done, because down here I have a representation for only 12s. Try to ignore this for now. So yeah, about 1/4 of my runs are 12s and higher. So we'll look at raw representation right now. And as you can see, let me see if I can make that, yeah, a little bit bigger so we can see more. You see that, you know, there are like substantial outliers. 14%. I should make an average tab for this number. But yeah, it looks like it would probably be around 7 or 8% would be the average, maybe a little bit lower than that. And so we have anything above 10 is a statistical outlier by a lot. And so we have, yeah, Death Knight as the number one. I mean, really, Mage is actually even higher, but Death Knight is definitely the one that stands out the most, because these guys are always bad. Like, season after season, Frost Death Knight was weak, and Unholy has struggled at times too. So it's funny to see them as the second most represented. And then Paladin is the one that I'm actually shocked is not the highest, because to me it seems like they would be the easiest spec to play ever in Mythic Plus. But then that's about it. Everything else is kind of average or below average. And so people keep bringing up a Warlock, which makes absolutely no sense to me. They're at least average, if not slightly higher than average. Like I said, I should have did an average thing there, but you know, even Hunters, a spec and class that people keep saying is very underperforming right now, and that they wouldn't want to take. Yeah, somehow 7% of all keys have a Hunter in them, or all DPS, I guess, have a Hunter in them. So yeah, that's not really good. I wouldn't really say there's any really Druid and Evoker, I guess, but that's mostly because people refuse to play Devastation, I think, and Og is just not good. Demon Hunter is actually among the lowest, and so is Monk and Priest, which historically have been the ones that are the biggest problems. So I feel like it's very, and then let's just look at 12 to just be comprehensive. So yeah, you see this problem gets substantially worse on the 12 level. Hunter then drops substantially, and you know, now Warrior starts really looking like the outlier, where before, you know, it was, oh, that's the upgrade one, but yeah, it was like slightly below average, kind of hanging with Druid and just kind of beating out some of these other ones. But now you see Warrior, you know, now we're getting to the point where it's like, whoa, okay, only 5 Warriors, actually almost similar level to Shadow Priest, and only 2 monks so far. So you know, poor monks, they're poor representation season after season. And people are like, Warlock, what the fuck? We need Warlock buffs. It's like, bro, what? Warlock is very good, right? Like, what do you mean? They're solid as hell. Like, they're really good. They're average. They're probably like a great average baseline to be bringing up Warlock. I don't know what you're even talking about, but yeah, anyway, so this guy's saying that he believes it's because of class representation. So let's talk about this comment here next, because, you know, again, more people are confused why this is even a thing. The guy says, what are we protesting? And he says, meta and worst season ever, allegedly. Says that, was that like a Lil Wayne? I don't even know what that is. Anyway, he says if it's the worst season ever, then Blizzard needs to stop listening to what Mythic Plusers say and want for their mode, because Blizzard did what Mythic Plus asked for them. Mythic Plusers, people who play Mythic Plus, asked them to do going into the War Within, removing mechanic affixes and making it pure scaling. And I think this is a bit like, it's not disingenuous per se, but it's like you didn't really finish your thought, because to be honest, this is correct, but this is not even remotely the problem. Like, I think the problem, and this guy's going to talk about it, but the problem is basically like a culmination of changes that all equal one output at the Mythic Plus level. So, nobody asked for that specifically, but they did ask for something that was foolish. And I think probably a good 50% of this problem is because of the changes to affixes. And this guy is, let's see what he has to say. So, this is a comment that has 2.4K upvotes. I don't really understand how awards work on Reddit, but 10 people, I don't know what that even means. So, don't you have to like, I don't know if you have to like pay for that or something. I'm not really sure what that is. But anyway, the affix changes were great. I love the new 2 affix, and I love that they don't apply in 12 and up. Okay. Yeah. So, and right out of the gate, I'm just gonna stop there and comment on that. Like, I don't know, like, a lot of people are trying to tell me that they love it. Okay. And I don't necessarily dislike it. But if you're telling me that the jump from 11 to 12 seems good, like seems like this was a good decision, I'm glad they did this, I just simply don't believe you. Okay. Now you can make the case that the top end keys are now in a better state of balance and that people will enjoy that more over the long term, and especially the top players, they'll enjoy that more. But this jump from 11 to 12 is still, it's just bad. It's just really not well done at all. And I don't know how else to fix that. The only way, I was thinking about the other day, the only way I think you can fix it is if there is now a second scaling modifier. So right now we have the 12 affix just adding, I guess it's 10% damage and health to everything. If that went up a percentage and started lower, I think that would be better. So at 12, it's 2%, and maybe 14, it's 5%, and then maybe it just keeps going up or something like that, just to have an additional scaling modifier on there. But it's just absurd. Like I did a couple 11s, and it's like, oh my God, these are ridiculously easy compared to a 12. And then this is the nerf state. Like before, it was night and day. It was like going from heroic grade to mythic grade. Like it was a ridiculous gap. So I don't buy. I think a lot of people who are saying this are just not even really doing 12s. Um, and whether or not you like it or not is not like, this is a change that they made, and it's not a good one. Like that's the way I look at it. The solution that they're trying to make here is not applicable. They failed to make it, because now, unless you're actually like a top world player, you're really just done at 12. Like to get above 13 is probably just, I mean, I don't know what it's going to look like, how long the season's going to go, but like I don't see it happening for me ever. Like I can't imagine ever upgrading at 14 or even coming close. So 12s at this point seem out of reach in a lot of situations. Anyway, so this guy then says the things making this season suck are the other stuff. And this is actually an important point, because I do think a lot of people have lost sight of this. These things that he's going to bring up are nonsense, but he is right about this part where the reason the season is difficult is maybe not like how a lot of people would like it, is not because of the affix changes. Even though, like I said, I do think they are layering on an additional level of problem that a lot of people probably didn't think they were going to get when they asked for the removal of very easy affixes that had almost no impact on dungeon success rates. Yeah, now obviously we have, and of course, nobody ever comments on this, right? Because it would be like just post suicide, right? Like career suicide for your comment. You bring up the death affix, like that's the biggest change, right? Like, how could you say that the affix changes are good when that affix exists? Like, it's absolutely the worst thing they've ever done for any level of competitive content. And you could say like, oh well, that's just one. Like they can just remove that and then everything would be fine. It's like, yeah, they could, but it didn't exist before. Now it exists. Like it, you know what I mean? Like you asked for changes. We got our monkey's paw. Here we are. So anyway, really, and this doesn't get brought up in the whole post. He doesn't bring this up, which is, I think, the biggest. When I say 50% of the problem, I'm talking about that one affix is why everything is sucky right now. Because if you had 20 deaths and you can still upgrade keys, it would be a totally different atmosphere again. You know, it'd be back to like it was in Dragonflight Season 3. If you guys didn't follow in Dragonflight Season 3, it was actually wild because you could have like 2 full wipes on some dungeons and still upgrade keys. Like Fall, especially a lower key level, Fall, you have 3 or 4 wipes on there. Like if you're doing like a 10 or 12 Fall back and before the affix change or before the key level changes, it's like you could have 5 or 6 wipes in there and still upgrade that key. Like we had footage of it. We had like that one group that I go back to because the Demon Hunter didn't know any of the mechanics. They wiped like 4 times and they still almost upgrade that key. Like if that guy actually ever learned that mechanic, they would have upgraded that key. I think that was a 13. Anyway, so here's his assumptions of why the season is so bad. Okay, and again, remember what's being said here. That's the worst season ever. Okay. It's shit like tanks being nerfed down so they could make damage less spiky, and then the damage is still spiky as hell. Just now, healers have to babysit the tank more often on top of what they already did in Dragonflight. So that guy probably plays the healer, right? Of course. Like, who's gonna say this? Who? If you tank, are you gonna say these words out loud? Bro, I've only played Blood, okay? And some people are trying to counter me saying that, you know, for some reason that Blood is an outlier in this way and that other tanks, you know, are not like this. And I really doubt it because if you look at the actual meta, like, you know, you guys probably haven't seen this a lot. Let's take a look at this, right? So this is actually like, it's kind of crazy, okay? Now, I don't know what websites to trust right now, but, you know, when you see all of these tanks, you know, and then there's Archon too, right? It's actually crazy because Blood DK is not the top in the game right now, right? Not by a lot, really. And that one is seemingly very different. Like I don't really understand why they're so different, but I like that this one starts at 2 and goes to 15, where I can't imagine. Yeah, this goes from 7 to 16. So it's a very different range. This one seems to represent more the whole game, okay? And so when you see like basically this is effectively the top of the top, okay? And you see multiple tanks above Blood, right? Especially Bear and Warrior. Now, what are Bear and Warrior known for? They're known for not having a lot of self-sustain. They're known for being a more traditional tank. In fact, for years I would have said if you're looking for an easier tank, pick those two because they're more traditional. And so, you know, what we're seeing, maybe you can actually make this inference that Blood is stronger at a lower key level and that kind of at a general key level and not at the highest end. But if this was true about tanks needing babysitting and that they were still struggling to survive spiky damage, right? And I think this is a total misnomer because I can't imagine any, like, I do not feel like Blood Death Knight has been like it has not been impacted at all. The changes they made have made zero impact to Blood Death Knight's ability to do dungeons, okay? And they are the ones who would be worried about damage being spiky as hell. The reason that damage is spiky as hell is because I parry a lot and then sometimes I get hit hard. That's it. Like that's the end of the. They didn't like make if you like they didn't make like some new affix that makes mobs do more damage every 5th hit, right? Like what does it mean to be spiky? This is like you suck at the game. When you say this out loud, it means that you don't have any idea what's happening to you in a dungeon. Like it really doesn't even make sense. Like what does spiky mean? Like the mob hits fucking hard and I parry a lot of the hits. Like that's all there is. Well, how does a prot warrior like it doesn't even make sense. Like how could these specs that are better than Blood be dealing with these problems if it was true for Blood and not, you know what I mean? Like this is not a real thing. It's really not. And so who's babysitting anybody? Like what is it that you're going to do? Again, as a Blood Death Knight, I know, but like what is it that you're going to do for this? You're going to cast a heal on the tank? That's what you call babysitting now? Like what is it that you do if it gets hit really really hard in a short period of time? What do? You fucking like make a forum post? Is that what you do? I don't really like this is your fucking job, bro. You play a healer. If people are low health, you fucking cast heals on them. That's the end of the conversation. It's not if you're finding the damage is spiky as hell, it's because you're not paying attention to damage profiles and you don't understand where the damage is coming from. So why don't you learn a little bit more about the content you're doing, and then you'll understand when they're in actual danger. And you'll notice that the reasons they're not in danger sometimes is because they have good combat table coverage, because they're playing a spec that offers that, okay? And then you'll understand exactly what you need to heal and what you don't need to heal. And then you won't be making nonsense comments like this. And it's really, 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 really silly because, Blizzard said they were going to do this and they didn't. I mean, from what I can tell, they did not. They did not accomplish their goals on this whatsoever. Okay. And they obviously took action to make damage less overbearing, like multiple nerfs to both fortified and now the peril, I believe that's the 12 affix, right? Multiple nerfs to the actual raw scaling of these things. And you still got people making comments like this. Like, what do you think is different? Seriously, like what did you think? Like everybody just loses health randomly now because of some affix? I really don't understand why people say this. It doesn't. It's just, to me, it reads like somebody who has no idea what's going on in the dungeon they're doing. And then it gets worse, way, way, way worse. Then he says it's shit like the packs being full of casters with instantly wipe your group mechanics who will now recast after being stopped. So doing something like stunning a caster mob just as your teammate goes to interrupt them can actually fuck your group over. Okay, TLDR, I have to play better and I don't like that. I mean, what are you even saying, bro? First of all, what is this comment? Packs being full of casters with instantly wipe your group mechanics. That doesn't exist. Like there's nothing I could rant, I could be hyperbolic. It just doesn't exist. Name me name me one caster mob. Name me one caster mob that will cast a spell that will instantly wipe all 5 people. The fuck are you even saying? Like when people say this nonsense, it's like you've just lost all credibility. But somehow, you know what I mean? Like, look at how stupid this community is. This guy's saying absolute garbage, like nonsense. I mean, I think a lot of people probably didn't even read his whole post because it's, you write more than 3 paragraphs on a Reddit post and somebody calls it a novel. But yeah, this is just absolute nonsense. And I really can't stand this type of thing because you're doing this to you're lying. What you're doing here is lying, okay? Whether or not you want to call it exaggeration, that's probably what you should call it, but this is lying. This is not true. And first of all, if you're fighting, like I can't even think of a single caster in Siege of Borealis that would even cast a spell that would even kill one person. Like I can't think of a dungeon that has that. Court of Threads is the only one that has significantly difficult interrupts, and you could skip a lot of the trash that has that. Like I can't even like what Grim Batol because it has some fucking frontals. You can just move out of those. Like I can't really come up with. Please, I want to be wrong about this. Please tell me I am wrong and that somehow I'm missing mobs that will instantly wipe your group. And then this he like says this, and this is why I say it's lying and not just exaggerating, okay? Because he says this, and then this is like maybe even not intentionally done, but like in terms of like the subconscious, he knows that he needs to say this in order to say this because it means that if you are not, perfect, like if you're not perfect, then this totally unfair difficulty is going to it's going to destroy you. And that's just not fair, Blizzard. Like sometimes we're just not perfect, man. Like, come on, man. We try. We try so hard, dude. We are working so hard, especially us healers, bro. Like, come on, man. We even put up Flame Shock here and there. But Blizzard, you're asking for too much, man. This is just not fair that if we don't kick the individual mobs that are comprising 100% of the trash packs that we fight, where every pack has these things that if we do not meticulously interrupt, well, now every single fucking group has 5 interrupts because everybody's playing Resto Shaman. If we all 5 of us somehow miss our kicks on these key casting mobs, we will instantly wipe our group. And, because failure is so punishing now, there's no way to recover from it. It's just such a disingenuous bullshit. Like I really can't stand comments like this. But he ruins his own point here because a lot of people are saying that the changes to interrupting and stunning are bad for them, and I think there's some reality to that. Okay, but they made those changes, because Demon Hunter tank was basically able to interrupt every single mob. Okay, and this is interesting, very interesting, really, because I heard a lot of comments about how once they removed that, like a lot of people thought they were just going to nerf the sigils and that would be how they removed it. This was in season 3 and 4. We were talking about this in Dragonflight, and people were saying like, well, once they nerf Demon Hunter, you're never going to see people kick anymore because people have gotten so used to not needing to kick that they just stop caring about it. Okay. And guess what? This is what this guy is saying, right? Like he is so unaware of what danger exists, right? Between these two comments, I think we can say that very comfortably. This guy doesn't have any idea what danger exists in the dungeons that he's doing. I mean, who knows what he's even doing because he's talking about 12s. I highly, highly doubt this guy's doing 12s. But regardless, he doesn't really understand the danger that the group is in. Okay, one way or the other, it's happening and he's reacting to it, but he's not analyzing it, right? Because you would never say these absolute nonsense comments if you were actually analyzing what was happening in your group, right? So then he's trying to panic react to it, and this is exactly what he's saying here. Okay, this is bad playing. Like, I mean, hey, it's harder, yeah, but guess what? You still played bad. Like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like, it's harder, yes, but you can still play around it. And so he's saying that because we can't accidentally overlap our interrupts and our CCs now, and now we're gonna wipe to it. It's like, bro, this is you making a mistake. I don't know. What do you want Blizzard to do about this? They made a change that they believe is good for the video game, just like whatever they did with the class tuning that the other people are bringing up, and you don't like it. So now you do this nonsense. I mean, I don't know that guy's doing this, but now here's the result. You made the game harder for us. We refuse to. By the way, still playing the game, right? How about here's a good way to protest. Log off the game. Thoughts on that? Yeah, okay. Anyway, let's continue on. The guy does have more things to say. He says it's shit like having to do higher tiers for the same reward. Yeah, God forbid you work harder. It's shit like the massive amount of bugs present in the dungeon. Just complete nonsense comment. Go look at my channel during season, I think it was, well, anytime Neltheris existed, okay? That was the buggiest Mythic Plus dungeon ever, without question. Without question. It had one boss that had like probably 10 different bugs. Like that fight just never properly worked, okay? We also have a video piece of evidence of Everbloom, one of the bosses failing to reset and causing them to have a total disaster in the dungeon where the boss could not be killed. They had to kill 3 times because they wiped to it, and then one of the bosses failed to reset. So then they came back and killed it, and it didn't count. So they had to kill it a 3rd time. I mean, like these bugs have always existed. And to say massive amount, like what does that word mean? You know what I mean? Like what is a massive amount? To me, if I heard the word massive amount, it would mean every single time you do a Mythic Plus, you run into some bug. I can't name a single bug. I really can't. The only thing is Dawnbreaker. And that dungeon is just simply poorly designed. To call it a bug is insulting to insects, to be honest, because that's not a bug. They designed a shitty dungeon. Like it's not going to change. They didn't make a dungeon that can now be bug free because you're assuming that things like you flying through a ship is a bug. That's just how the fucking technology in World of Warcraft makes. The developers did that on purpose. That's why that dungeon is the worst dungeon ever made. It's not bugged. It's bad design. Okay, so give them the credit if they're talking about the Dawnbreaker specifically. Okay, maybe you can say the dungeon's bugged. The only other bug we saw all season that was like it happened literally one time was Throngest just didn't spawn. Like what the hell was that? That was ridiculous, right? That's the only significant one that I could think of. But again, leave a comment. Anyway, it's shit like the prevalence of curse and poison mechanics that restrict the healing meta. Oh, cool, like in BFA. You know, it was funny. In BFA, a lot of people said the same thing. Resto Druid, overweight. Again, let's bring this up. We still have it up, right? I have all the stats, guys. I got all the stats. Anyway, if you haven't seen Resto Shaman, slowly becoming ridiculous, right? Now, again, this is in 12 only. I don't have this kind of stat for the old days. But here's the BFA Season 4 spreadsheet. Look at this. Resto Druid, 43%. Apparently, it's really bad right now, right? 43%. Holy Pally, 29%. 2 healers are, what's that, 60? I don't even know. I'm terrible at math. That's like 70% of the population are 2 healers, okay? Better or worse than 1? You guys tell me. Shaman's really bad in 12 apparently, but in all keys, it's actually a lot better. 56%, so not that different from what we've seen in the past. And you know why everybody said that Resto Druid was #1 overall? Guess why they said that? I can tell you why right now. Because of the ability to dispel. And guess what? The BFA dungeons. You know what's unique about the BFA dungeons? They were there the whole expansion. We had them for 4 seasons, guys. 4 seasons. You know what's going to change next season? The dungeons. Yeah, the dungeons are going to have different dispels. Hey, I don't know if you guys like it or not. I think that that is at least one good thing about the dungeons changing every season is that it will mess with the meta, right? And I think messing with the meta is a good thing. I do think it is when you have a carved, niche for 4 seasons for 2 years straight. That's not healthy. So anyway, the guy closes by saying it's a bad, buggy dungeon pool with shitty mechanics littered throughout it. Actually, just remove that word, and I actually agree with what he's saying. The dungeon pool is the worst dungeon pool we've ever had. It's because it has 2 really poor dungeons in it, and it has Grim Patrol, which actually works out. To be, I have to give credit where credit's due. Blizzard did a good job with Grim Patrol, but it's really a bad dungeon pool. And in terms of shitty mechanics, Court of Threads and Dawnbreaker are basically just bad dungeons mechanically for Mythic Plus. But I don't think that's what this guy's talking about. It sounds like he's talking about the game is too hard, which obviously I'm not going to agree with. But anyway, he says the only saving grace for the season is the new Affix season. The new Affix system? Can you imagine doing these dungeons with Sanguine? Okay, we'll just stop here. We'll just stop right here. Can you imagine doing these dungeons with Sanguine? I can actually. Yeah, they'd be fucking joke mode. Sanguine would be probably one of the easiest affixes this expansion. The problem with Sanguine in the past, especially in Dragonflight after they nerfed it. Now, don't forget, they nerfed it where only one pool of Sanguine can heal. So that was a huge, huge nerf. Because before it used to be really bad, like in Everbloom, where you'd kill 10 mobs of stupid lashers, which I looked at as just bad. I mean, that's just like a bug, really, if we're going to call these other things bugs. That should never have been how it was. They would put down 10 stacks of Sanguine and just heal everything to full the second anybody would get ticked by. So that after that change, further nerfing an easy affix, the only time it would ever suck is when casters refuse to move. Okay. And, I don't know how hard that would be, how big of a problem that would be this season. But, I think about the dungeons that we're doing and they're very wide open, right? Like, I can't really think of a dungeon where you wouldn't have a lot of room to navigate with Sanguine. Like, ironically, the most problematic one ever was Sanguine Depths, right? And, they even nerfed Sanguine knowing how bad Sanguine Depths was going to be that expansion when Shadowlands launched. But then you brought up busting, which is like, did you mean to include that? You should have said bolstering, right? Is that what, I assume it was a typo. I do this all the time. When a word starts with the same letter, I always confuse it, right? You brought up the easiest affix in the game. And you know what's weird that you brought it up? It's basically here again, right? We have like a harder busting right now. Like one of the 4 affixes that they added to the game because of the feedback that people gave them that they wanted new affixes is the exact same affix. It's actually the same affix. It's just like, I guess it's easier to deal with because it's not a magic only. And that makes it slightly easier to deal with, but it's like way more punishing and, potentially way more problematic. Obviously, the fact that it can happen during bosses, like the fact that you might have to dispel to the boss mechanic and the affix. It's kind of a combination of both busting and afflicted, right? Is that the one? Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. This guy's going off, but I'll tell you right now, just a lot of this comment and a lot of the commentary in this game is now like the game is harder and I don't like that. And that's not a very respectable position to take. So I don't know. I feel like and then a lot of people continue to say Blizzard apparently is about to buff already top tier meta classes while nerfing classes that would rather need buffs. And we're doing the same thing right now. So I'm going to be very clear on that. I'm doing the same thing that this guy is doing that I'm about to comment on, just in the opposite direction. But when you say this, apparently is about to buff already top tier meta classes. I mean, what can you just list what they're doing? Like I looked through this whole thread this morning and not one person explained exactly what the problem is. I really don't understand it. Like, it's from what I can tell, like it's very minor changes. And like I said about Shaman, like they're getting nerfed. Like Poison Cleansing Totem nerf is huge. That's a big deal for them, especially given the way the affixes are right now. And people keep saying that they're powerful against poison, right? Like, I don't know. It doesn't really seem like the changes that I read are matching up to this commensurate level. As far as I know, they are protesting the assumed class changes, not the state of Mythic Plus, which is honestly fair. Buffing Frost Death Knight and Arcane Mage while ignoring Warlocks, Warriors, and nerfing Ret Paladins. Now we're bringing up Ret? Wait, is Ret actually being nerfed? Because I got told they were getting buffed. I don't know the whole Warrior thing. This is the one that keeps sticking in my head because I see a lot of people talk about this. I don't really understand the Warrior one. But I'm going to tell you right now, Warrior's solid. In Mythic Plus, it's solid. Every time, and again, you can look at the sheet. If you guys disagree and you don't have your own stats, you can use mine. Sort by any of these having a warrior. Look at the overall dungeon. Let's see how many, where's some warriors? Okay, beating a distro lock. Here's what, well, you got to actually make sure it's not a disband. That's the hard part. So let's just do it. We'll just do it. We'll get rid of all disbands. Okay, let's see how many times we see a warrior in this column. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 4. That's it. 4 times. Then we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. They're solid. I mean, what's wrong? What, that guy's beating other players in keys that are successful. Like, what do you want? I don't, like, what does it need to be for you to be happy? I don't really understand that. Like, when people talk about numerical nerfs, what does it really matter? Like, if you're not already successful and you get nerfed, I get it. It feels bad, but like, you have to look at more than just yourself when you're talking about nerfs and buffs. And this is why this is the pinnacle of entitlement, because people are not happy with the way the game is going for them. And then Blizzard makes a change that they are perceiving is like targeting them almost. And then they react this way, right? Again, this is the reaction, like throwing a fit like a child would. You know what I mean? Bro, if Warrior got nerfed, who cares? You can just switch, like just go play a different fucking class. Like, dude, I'm telling you right now, dude, if Blood DK got nerfed again, 10% health, armor loss, stamina loss, whatever you want to fucking do, go nerf that goddamn spec. I'm playing it tomorrow. Like, what? I'm not going to make a goddamn protest over it. you fucking adapt to it, man. Like, it's the game that we play, dude. They make changes to the game. You don't always understand them. And if you actually love the class that you're apparently protesting on, then you continue playing anyway. Like, should be looked at as a challenge to you, right? Like, oh, great. Now I'm even less meta. Let's go dominate. Let's go prove. Like, watch the Harry podcast, man. If you guys didn't see this, if you're watching this and you didn't watch Harry's podcast, me and him got together. I have a totally different perspective. Listening to somebody who I know, frankly, did not do very well at the game for years and years and years and years, switch to a holy priest of all things, not only a holy priest, but apparently an archon holy priest, which is even worse, being one of the worst healing specs in the entire game right now. And he is actually succeeding in the pug world as a healer who has no prior experience healing ever. He's above, look at this guy, right? He's above this guy. Look at the guy that we're looking at right now here. I get regularly declined in even low 9s with 2400 IO. 626 item level lock. No lust, no invite. Doesn't matter if I'll carry and a +2 to similar or even the same key. It doesn't matter my experience. Not a meta mage, no invite. Let alone 10 plus. Harry's above this guy. Now, we don't know how long this guy's played Warlock, but he seems to understand that Mage is often looked at as a really good pick for ranged. Let's see some of the replies here. If a team needs a lust, they won't invite a warlock. You wouldn't even invite yourself. Like, yeah, what are you bringing up bloodlust for, bro? You fucking need it. Like, what? Maybe is that why? No, that can't be why the people pick mage. Because there's Resto Shaman. Who needs them? Yeah, what does this even mean? Like, what are you saying? That Resto Shaman isn't in the key too? Why do the best classes have lust on top of it, though? If lust is such an important part of being invited, if anything, those classes should do less damage than non-lust classes. Oh, that always makes me facepalm when anybody says that. Yeah, okay. So the classes that you perceive have the best utility should just be nerfed because they have good utility, right? See, this is a real big problem with this game because you don't understand that the utility is a part of the kit that is tangential to the actual throughput that they can nerf and buff. So they can nerf utility, and like they did with Demon Hunter, Vengeance Demon Hunter, they can do it pretty heavy-handedly. But the problem is the kit doesn't get any more interesting when you do that, okay? So I don't think anybody's switching to a spec purely because of its utility. Like Resto Shaman was one of the best utility kits ever in BFA in every expansion ever. Legion the same way, okay? But somehow it's only become the paragon of utility today. Like it took 7 years for it to be good, apparently. I don't really even understand how that transpired because you could have said the same thing. I think it is poison cleansing totem and the new buff that they got, to be honest. But they've always been the top utility. Like they're the best out of any spec. Like there wasn't a spec that was better than them, and they're a healer, which should tell you everything. They should be in every single key you do, right? Like why would you take a healer that doesn't even? Because back then they didn't even have interrupts, bro. Shaman was the only healer with an interrupt. Do you understand that? But a lot of people probably don't know that. Paladin, Monk, I mean, Priest still doesn't. Druid, they did not have interrupts. Evoker didn't even exist. So it was literally Resto Shaman. And they brought a melee level interrupt. A 15-second, whatever. Is it 12 or 15? I don't even know. They bring a very short CD interrupt, okay? The best utility ever. More by a lot. But somehow having lust, you should be nerfed. You don't even know what you're saying. Like these things don't even make sense. There's people just arguing and just Lock has battle res, right? Great counterpoint. Great counterpoint. One of the two big utilities that every group needs, right? It's actually yeah, great counterpoint. Really good. There are add-ons to make sure you're not uselessly queuing into groups that have filtered groups and they need a last DPS and bloodlust. Do you even need an add-on for that anymore? The guy says 2400 IO isn't impressive enough to stand out in the 200 applicants. Then this guy says entry level job needs 10 years of experience required as a terrible counterpoint. That was a ridiculous counterpoint. You think 2400 is entry level? Don't tell that guy that. As Asmongold famously said it way back when, do you want $100 or $105? That's actually a good, yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. Yeah. He goes, if there's 500 applicants, of course, years of experience matter. Run your own key. Yeah, it's actually a big problem in the real world too, right? It's not that they, I had this problem too when I was applying to jobs, and it took me a while to realize it. I actually applied for a job that was an entry level position, and they hired a PhD candidate from Russia. The guy was 46 years old, and he had a PhD in biotechnology, which is what my career was supposed to be. And I was really mad when I was young. Okay, when this first happened, and then years later, I look back on this, and it's like, yeah, why would you not hire that guy? The fucking starting pay was like $17 an hour. Like what, you know what I mean? Like what is that guy gonna get? Like what are they gonna make? Like he's gonna get like 20 instead? He's a fucking PhD holder. He's worked in the field for probably 20 years already. You know what I mean? Like why would you not take the PhD holder there? It sucks, but that's the country that we live in. Like that's the world that we live in. Competitive markets are good for people getting better at their life. And then this like almost like refusal to improve creates this entitlement where you're talking about, I this guy like I'm 2400 and 626 and people won't invite me. Guess what? Do you know what that means? I wonder if a lot of people actually think that they're being declined. Like we made this comment a couple videos ago and people like latched onto it, but like it's a really big deal. Like if you're not accepted, do you look at that as they hate you? Do you think they're saying like, bro, get the hell out of my queue. Don't you ever come back. You think I want your shitty hellstones, bro? You don't even have good transmog. Why would I want? Like, do you really think that's what's happening? It's like, come on, man. Like, I don't know how people don't see that after all these years. Anyway, any other interesting comments? Let's see. I don't know why it does this. Like, won't load all the comments by default. But yeah, the only thing I really, really dislike about the season is that you need to do a fucking 10, which is equivalent to a fucking 20 any other season to get Mythic Track gear on the vault. before, what was it? A 12 to 15, depending on the season? You don't even know? Somebody, I mean, I don't know what this guy's actually saying, but anyway, I think we ran our course on this. So let me know what you guys think about this. I really do feel like the community has gotten out of control. Um, and if you're out there, I want to make one last plea here, okay? Because I know it looks like we take a lot of shots at these people, and I might be trolling them or I might be offensive or something like that towards them. I want to help you. I really, really, really do. If you're somebody who is not succeeding in this season, or you feel like your class cannot compete or something like that, just like I will help you, dude. I'll do anything I can to help you. My goals have only ever been to improve the game's community, okay? And it's like spiraling out of control downward at this point, to the point where it's like I don't know that I can even do anything other than be the way I am towards these people. Because like you're being irrational, right? Doing this and acting this way over something so ridiculous like this is being irrational. It's first of all, it shouldn't be allowed. You should be banned. You should be silenced for this. Listing fake groups is I got actually silenced for that once before. So this is not something that should be allowed in the first place. And doing it in this fucking limp dick way, like this is a fucking pathetic protest. Like it really is. If you wanted to make a statement, you didn't do it. You really failed. And I think really the pull the ripcord bullshit was way like at least doing it a place where people care and not just constantly spamming on people that don't care. Like this is just really disruptive to everybody trying to do these keys. I like somebody commented on the guy who has 21. I assume that's just a typo. He probably meant to do 12. But that's just I'd love to see what this comment says. But it's just really fucking rude, to be honest. Like that is so freaking rude. When most times I sign up for 12, there's only like 3 or 4 keys. That and then the other direction where people are putting 11s up and then they have 12 in their description, so people who are doing 12 see it. Like that shouldn't be allowed. But anyway, besides that, if you want to try to do this, if you feel like because this is to me like psychologically like you feel like you have no control over your own situation, you feel like you're like not able to improve your situation and you're lashing out. It's a very, unfortunately, this very immature behavior, a very infantile approach to this, but it's understandable from a psychological level. Like you want to be better and you feel like the game is stepping on you every time you try. Okay. Well, it's not true, first of all. And so I'm trying to help you realize that. Okay. So whether or not you think it's hyperbolic or trolly, I am doing that. Yes. But it's doing it because it should make you mad. I want to elicit that response. Okay. If you're somebody who's in this boat, who you're saying that, what that one guy said, that long comment, that nonsense, if you're doing that, you should be mad at me for this because that's what I want you to feel. I want you to feel challenged and I want you to stand up and realize that you can do better, okay? That you now need to rise to the occasion of challenging me back. And in so doing, you'll become a better person because you'll have to think more about these topics. Whereas, like, your first, like, fly off the handle response, and trust me, I was this way for years. Like, it really was who I was for a long time. Whatever my first response was that was my personality for like 3 hours. Yeah, like it was like I was stuck in it. Okay, and it took me a lot of introspection and a lot of failure, frankly. Like where you put your head up against this wall and the wall wins. You can't do it for the rest of your life. It's really bad for you. And I don't think a lot of people know that. So I'm just trying to help you guys. And yeah, like I said, one more time, if you feel like you can't succeed in this game, you've come to the right place. So the ball's in your court now. I will do anything I can to help you. You tell me what you need. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.